Welcome everybody. We have friends in different part of the world, Europe and across the US and Canada. Thank you for attending the, I guess Q1 March virtual meetup. We're excited today because we're having a discussion on a topic that we have not had a discussion on, and I have invited a couple key speakers. It's been a very challenging 2 years for all of us, and I think I am back to normal. I'm going to travel. I'm going to go visit customer. I'm going to come out to see all of you and have discussion. And I feel like hopefully everything is good for everybody and everybody staying healthy. Oh yeah, and also Ben, you are from the bottom of the world, New Zealand. So today the discussion it's around Azure Stack HCI as always, but Azure Stack HCI in terms of supporting GPU in a coming roadmap. I think that topic is already publicly announced by Microsoft. But today I really want to invite a couple key experts here to the discussion to make sure that we could share kind of where the roadmap looks at, what are they looking at, and really having a forum for all of you who are actively using Azure Stack HCI and looking at how to continue to optimize the workload and ask the tough question to these guys about what GPU will do and how does it enhance your organization, right? So I really appreciate the opportunity and their time. I'll do a quick intro and they could do an intro themselves. We have Alvin from Microsoft, who I believe is the program manager for Azure Stack HCI in charge of the GPU piece of it. And Alvin, you could do a quick intro yourself.
Yep, you got it right. Working with program manager, working with the Hyper-V team specifically on the GPU investments.
Got it.
For HCI.
Thank you. Welcome, Alvin. And we have both Ryan and Motti from NVIDIA. And there will be the part talking about how NVIDIA as a company continues to support Azure Stack HCI from a GPU perspective. Motti?
Yeah, so Motti Beck, I'm part of the NVIDIA networking business unit those days. It came from actually the acquisition of Mellanox. And I've been working with the Microsoft HCI team and with DataON for a while on using our gear, networking gear, in the HCI solutions.
Got it. Thank you. As usual, I'm gonna make stuff up as I go. So anybody here who doesn't have a DataON awesome shirt, put your name on the chat. It will send one to you ASAP. In the middle of the conversation, when I see some dead air, I'm gonna do a drawing for a $100 Amazon card just for the fun of it, and we'll do that. We have some slides. The slides is to use to have a conversation. The goal is not to have a one-way discussion. It is really to have a conversation where you can ask the question to all the experts here and how it impacts your business. And again, this forum is very free discussion. We want to make sure that we answer all your questions. So let's get started and let's use the slides for initial introduction. And then anytime you have a question, raise your hand or just speak up, guys, and feel free to speak up anytime, and we'll make sure that we answer all the questions. Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Before we get going, if you are putting your name in for t-shirts, please include your email address so that we can follow up with you and find out your size and where to ship it to.
All right. Go ahead, let's get started.
Yep.
I think Jeff will share their slides. Who's first? I don't know.
It's you.
Oh, it's me. Okay. All right. I don't think I need to go back other than a couple of new customers. I think most people, DataON, it's been exclusive Microsoft for about 10 years now, and we're excited that we're adding more technology portfolio into our stack, especially with GPU. But we'll definitely see a momentum. I've been super busy just talking to customer about the hybrid cloud journey that we've been taking them on. And I think Microsoft and NVIDIA continue to innovate to make sure we have those technology for you. Next slide. For those who doesn't have engaged with us directly, DataON, our goal is to deliver a complete turnkey solution. for the hybrid cloud experience, and that includes architecting the Azure Stack based on your workload, discuss business continuity, backup, disaster recovery to make sure you have a complete end-to-end solution. We do have our software capability, the extended capability of management and monitoring with our Must and Must Pro software. And more recently, we've been helping our customer looking at taking advantage of the cloud services from Microsoft, whether or not is Kubernetes services, Azure Side Recovery, backup as a CSP, because that's the true hybrid cloud where customers could take advantage of all the workload they need on premises, but still take advantage of all the Azure services they can as a hybrid cloud environment. Next page. Azure Stack HCI, for those who's not familiar, it's a brand new OS that Microsoft launched about a year and 5 months ago, 20H2. We're now at 21H2. It's a standalone OS that's subscription-based and Azure services. And it's really a true architecture that Microsoft has delivered as a service, allows you to take advantage of all the hybrid cloud services. It's really optimized for infrastructure, for on-premise VDI, and also a lot of workloads across the board. So it's been the kind of direction that Microsoft wants to go, and a lot of customers are really taking advantage of it. And we're excited to be there and sharing all this technology with you. And today we'll talk about GPU. The last slide I have is, as you know, one of the continued innovation from DataON Microsoft is to deliver an experience for our customer where you could focus on your applications and management and spend less time on infrastructure management. With the new Azure Stack HCI OS and integrated system, both Microsoft and DataON really deliver that experience for you, where we now have continuous testing for reliability. We have joint support with Microsoft for Azure Stack HCI specifically, and also we have our Must Pro software. Really has been, it's a software we've been developing for the last 5 years, and now Must Pro allows you to do firmware driver BIOS upgrade for your hardware infrastructure, along with software using cluster aware update as a flow. So as you move forward, you could easily update your infrastructure Azure Stack HCI seamlessly and not have to worry about taking it down on Sunday night or Saturday night, 1 a.m. A lot of solution, one UTU, hardware innovation continues to happen. All our solution today now is based on Xeon Gen 3 processor with secure core PCIe Gen 4. So we'll really continue to be on the forefront of technology to make sure that the technology and infrastructure we deliver for our customer is the highest reliable solution and performance. So we'll continue to talk to our customer and make sure we're the right solution for you. All right, without further ado, I'm going to pass it to Motti. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Alvin. So again, in my slides, and actually Ryan is going to help me a little bit later on the deeper dive, I'll go over the overview of why you guys should start thinking about adding GPUs and AI into your solutions, and the complexity of doing it, and what NVIDIA is doing to make your life a little bit easier to make it happen. And by now, probably few of you, or maybe all of you, are already using AI application or AI-based application in their data centers, and it's all over the place already. For example, on the HR side, today there are so many activities that needs to be done when reading the resumes of the people. So instead of doing it in manually, that takes long time. There are already machine learning algorithms that can check the resumes and find if the right candidate is, if the candidate is the right one for the position. This is based on AI algorithm. Of course, marketing and sales, it's always about, improving the pricing strategy, improving the marketing efficiency. Everything is using data to make it better and better. And actually, companies that are not using it are behind and cannot compete with the leading one. Great example is about customer support. There are the chatbot, of course, but not just the chatbot itself. Even if people are talking with a human representative, in parallel to that, there is a system that actually does the speech to text and analyzing the needs of the user and can make recommendation to the representative what to offer. Product development, of course, and operation all over the place. You see machine learning and AI already active. So the trend is already there and the usage is already there. But if we move to the next slide, we are actually facing issues today because the complexity of the implementation itself. Actually, according to Gartner, about 50%, I believe that it's actually even more, about 50% of the attempts to deploy machine learning solutions fail and are not going into production itself. And it's mostly because of the current situation in the data centers, in the silos that exist today, because to come with the comprehensive solution and the best solution to come with the right decisions, you need to use data from different places. It's not just one database and not just databases that are on-prem, but also databases that somewhere located worldwide. And this is a silo that the silos that exist today and needs to be combined together into one integrated system. And of course, the lack of the other one is the lack of the right hardware and the accelerated computing that you need to do it. Of course, for example, you can run today machine learning over the regular CPUs, but it's going to take you forever. And in many cases, I would say most of the cases when you are using machine learning, you want to do it in real time. And the real time requires accelerated computing or accelerated database that not just using the best CPUs, but using also the GPUs and using the fastest networking, because there is so much data that you need to analyze, and the data is huge. With the regular SQL database, we are talking about a relatively small amount compared to a machine learning that just the training model is going to take several terabytes of data. So it's totally different deployment or infrastructure, and that needs to integrate the all tools together, not just the training, but the trainings that are working with the inferencing. And for the guys that don't know what, I have an overview about what I'm mentioning now. So everything needs to be orchestrated under the same umbrella, under the same place, that will work smoothly. Otherwise, the work is going to be very complicated. So in the next slide, I just mentioned in brief the different phases that companies need to go. On the left side, you see the database that you need to use. This is a big data that includes ton of data. Sometimes it's several tens of terabytes of data for the training itself. Then you need to go through the training model. And then after you need to go into the training model, of course, at the end of the day, you want to do it to prepare it for inference. You are preparing it for inference. And then, of course, you are going to deploy it in the right edge or the right cluster or solutions that you are planning to deploy. And this requires a lot of data and a lot of tools. And this is where actually NVIDIA put all of our, not all, huge efforts in the last couple of years to make your life much easier. And we prepared for you all that, at least to start. It's an open system. You can start with our own models that usually takes several weeks if you do it by yourself. So you can take our own models, depends on the use case that you are planning, whether it's imaging, whether it's speech recognition, whether it's something else. We have several frameworks that fits probably one of your use cases. You can start using it, you can get it, the train model, you can start the deployment, and of course, later on you can improve it with more data available to improve the training and the accuracy of the inference activity. So everything is ready. to give you the jump start. Sometimes it's accelerated. There are cases that accelerated or shortened the deployment by 10x, cutting it by from 80 weeks to 8 weeks or even less. So everything, again, we don't have time today to go into all the details, but just to give you an overview that all you need is already ready and you can start using it, and the deployment should be, at least at the beginning, the jump start should be relatively easy. And for the next one, you know, we don't have just one, the next slide, we don't just have one GPU, we have several of them, depends on the use case, and maybe Ryan, you can help me here to go into deeper description of each one of them.
Yeah, I'll introduce myself real quick. So I'm Ryan Huff. I'm a technical account manager with NVIDIA, and I'm dedicated to Microsoft on all of our edge and IoT joint solutions we're building. So that ranges all the way from the data center cards that will run out on, you know, HCI, helping partners like DataON on board as a partner, working with Shearer and Alvin on bringing GPU features to HCI. Also, there's HCI OS support, Mariner Linux support, eFlow. So anything that's out on the edge, you know, I could be a resource to help for that if you have questions. So really the main thing to take away is that there is a GPU for every use case. So rather than starting with, you know, what GPU should I install in the system, start with the application and work it from there. So I don't know if everyone here is familiar with the T4. If we start here on the smaller data footprint for data center and edge AI, that T4 has been the sweet spot for that space, and it's not on this list because we're having availability challenges. It's opening back up, so T4 could be an option to bring that back in. But even with T4 as that sweet spot for edge AI inference, people still wanted a more efficient card. So that's why you see this A2. Same form factor as a T4, less power, but highly efficient at those lower power intervals. So if you move up the stack for compute, and this is where it gets interesting with HCI, the larger servers can hold the larger GPUs, so you can do more processing out on the edge. So that leads you to the A30 and then all the way up to the A100. And each of these GPUs have different technologies, you know, multi-instance GPU, for example, you can carve your A100 into 7 isolated GPUs. Alvin will speak to some of the futures on what we're working on to enable some of these things over on the graphic and compute side. So AVD, VDI with GPU, that's a huge focus area for the year. And so that was where we would start at the A16. Now the A2 can do VDI, but depending on the use case, the A16 may be a better fit. You know, the A16 is interesting. It actually has 4 GPUs on one board. So you can carve it up using that method. And then moving up the stack is the A40, and that's the flagship visualization. Also, which is coming out soon, or already announced, are some of the converge cards. And so Motti might talk to some of it at the DPU side. So now we have a converge card. So now we have a DPU, which is the data processing unit for the networking side, you know, Bluefield merged with the GPU. We're doing some super interesting things there. And I think some of the main use cases we're going to see there are AI on 5G out on the edge. And so that's where we can start doing AI processing on those network functions on the network, you know, whether it's 5G timing, ultra low latency, you know, this can come in with ultra real time manufacturing processes, security and whatnot. The use cases are pretty broad. So happy to get into some of the use cases, you know, current use cases, emerging use cases, you know, wherever the conversation takes us today. But that's kind of the overview, the lay of the land, you know, what GPU does what.
Thank you, Ryan. And if we'll move to the next, I put just a couple of use cases, and intentionally I prefer to use use cases that are not related specifically to inference, but related to the regular application or standard or legacy application that runs on the data center today. For example, this specific one is the Spark 3.0 in this particular case. NVIDIA donated to the Apache the Spark 3.0 that runs over GPU. There are companies like Cloudera that took it and productized it. And this just showed a benchmark that we did that TPC-XBB. This is the test that measures the efficiency and the performance of Spark. And you can see that when you're running over GPU, you can accelerate the performance by significantly. I don't even know how much, but you know, the numbers are big numbers. And you see in the bottom the link to the blog or the presentation that we did, and of course the link to the where it's listed as well. So again, the GPUs are not just about inferencing, but also about using or accelerating regular or legacy applications. And actually, even the next one, it's actually this started to be the next slide about solving the security and dealing with the security as an AI topic or as an AI issue, let's call it, instead of the traditional way that companies have been using to protect the data centers. And in this particular case, there are two components that are involved, the DPUs that Ryan mentioned before. This is the data processing unit. This is the regular ConnectX plus ARM processors, and this is something that we discussed in our last, between us and DataON in our last webinar. We deep dived into it, but the idea here is that the DPU is getting from different sensors in the cluster ongoing telemetry information, feeds the telemetry information to the GPU. The GPU treats it as a machine learning, and once it detects something, immediately it stops the activity, or telling the DPU stop this activity. And in this particular case, the activity is being stopped in real time, compared to what happens today is that only a few days later, the system detects what is going on, and then there is some kind of recovery, and so the damage is pretty much done, just the recovery process started. And with using the GPU, we can do it on a server level. Today, the deployments are so complicated. It's not like in the past that we could define very well the perimeter of the data center, and we could put in a specific places the firewalls. Today, it's all over the multi-cloud activities, and it's very hard to protect the cluster as a cluster. So we are using the DPU and the GPU to protect it on a server level. And this is the converged accelerated card, the A100X or the A30X, that combine both of them on the same card, and that we discussed in the previous webinar that we did, I believe, in January. But of course, we can go into the details later on if we'll have time. There are many other activities, including Omniverse. The Omniverse is a great tool that NVIDIA promotes to provide you a digital twin. Basically, instead of building something physically, let's build it in a digital way, do the simulation, and only when you are ready, you are building. And there are digital twins started to be digital twin to many activities, including, by the way, on us and as a human body. But this is something that I would encourage you to join the GTC in the 21st of March, and will provide much more data about it. So with this one, I'll move the the next slide to Alvin.
Thank you, Motti. Thank you, Ryan. So I will cover a few few items here for Microsoft GPU perspective. Some of the technologies that we're looking into, and then what we have on 21H2. So you can move to the next slide. So basically, as Motti mentioned, the artificial AI and ML are most of the high asks from high demand within GPU. So this is the primary target that we looked into for our investments in GPU. There are other two that we're looking into, which is high performance and 3D app and desktop remoting, which are we're looking into as well, doing some investigations in these areas, and we will continue to focus. Next slide. So offering value to the customer. So looking from that previous slide, you can see that we have these scenarios, and what we intend here is to enable them on different platforms within our product line. So Azure Cloud, Azure Hub today, and Azure Stack HCI. All this is built on Windows and Hyper-V, and then incorporate the vendors, the hardware diversity. That's the view that we have on how we're operating and introducing some of these features. Next slide. So I think mentioned earlier, so Windows Server will continue to carry forward the GPU virtualization support, but we're investing a lot in HCI, and that was the focus, or it was mentioned earlier, and that continues to be our focus to bring new enablement on HCI. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about virtualization technology. So two ones that we're focusing on is discrete device assignment. It's basically assigning the whole device to a VM, not to be used by the host at the same time. So there's a abstraction there. The VM gets the whole dedicated GPU, so it can use it as it's best suited for the AI and ML workloads, and it's supported in single server configurations as well today, since Server 2016. Our second technology we're looking into is what we call GPU partitioning, GPU-P. It's basically fractional GPU. We'll break the GPU into smaller pieces, assign them to the VM using SROV standards. It's currently available in Azure Cloud and Azure Stack Hub. And these are the two platforms that are offering it today. Azure Stack HCI, this is an area of investment that we're looking into the near future.
Yeah, this is actually a topic that came up many times with our customer, Alvin, that we know that DDA, discrete assignment for GPU, is available for Azure Stack 21H2. Without giving away NDA information, which I'd love to get out of you, what does the roadmap look like for GPU-P? Is it 10 years from now, soon? What is going on?
Very, very near.
Okay.
We're looking into, we're currently looking into this area. The one thing I want to, I think we talked about this earlier as well. One thing I want folks to get out of this is a journey, right? GPU is a journey. I understand that the world is moving fast, so we're trying to catch up and move forward with all these investments and partnerships. But this is an area that we need to focus and move forward, and it's a journey. So you'll see that there'll probably be components that will be lit up, and we'll offer that roadmap in the very near future.
I think that's the beauty. I think in that line, that's the beauty of Azure Stack HCI as a service, right? And because Azure Stack HCI is an Azure service, when it's available, you lit it up. It's not like, oh, let me wait 2 years for a release cycle where I put it into the Windows Server to release it. I'm not saying anything bad about Windows Server. I'm just saying because Azure Stack is a service, you could. When you have new feature that's ready to go, you test it, essentially you enable it. I think that's the beauty of this model, where you can allow multiple feature in the future, not just GPU, to allow to be enabled in Azure Stack HCI.
Absolutely. That's a good way of showing the value.
Yep.
Next slide. So I'll talk briefly here about what we did on 21H2, which is the current release of Azure Stack HCI. So before, we just had the barebone pin VM experience. It was not cluster friendly. In fact, there was a blockage in the cluster from a Hyper-V standpoint. We didn't allow it at all. It was very targeted to specific use cases, very limited. We didn't even, I don't think we even mentioned it in a couple of within the catalog, or we created any anything for the, like, we only had PowerShell. We didn't have any management stack for it. So no use of admin center. For 21H2, which is the next slide, we completely lifted the restriction for the GPU on a cluster resource. So now you can have a VM with a GPU assigned and be able to live in a cluster and move it around. Some of the technologies that we use there are, we also introduced in 21H2 the CPU compatibility. So that's a technology that we use in behind the scenes to detect a lot of what's available on the what components are available on the CPU. But also there's the part of that is that there's inventory occurring on the server, and that's how we know that what component has what CPU. So in part, we use that technology to detect the GPU as well. So that's part of how enabling that capability is introduced in HCI, and it will continue to be extended. Nothing that is exposed to users today, so that's not something that you set up, but I just wanted to share how a little bit of internal how we do things and how we detect things. So the VM is assigned the GPU and can be added to the cluster, and then because this is DDA, there's some downtime, so the machine has to be configured to be shut down and moved to the other node. The nature of DDA today is that it really can't be live migrated. We have DDA on 21H2, and as we spoke probably a little bit earlier in the previous slide, we are very heavily thinking about GPU-P as the next in the next release. So this is a single admin assigns in a single server workflow. Admin assigns a specific GPU to a VM. In a cluster environment, you now create a GPU pool. There's a resource group that needs to be created. The GPUs are added to that group, and then the VM is placed in this resource group. The important aspects here is that the resource group has to be the same across all the nodes, and it will be moved around and assigned and reassigned if you're doing, like, for example, a drain.
So I've got a question. This is Tim Brumbaugh. So originally you had the DDA assignment. You actually had to go into PowerShell and find your PCI device and actually manually assign it through that. Are you guys changing all that? I mean, so obviously it looks like this is obviously more dynamic, and OS is going to do all this for you.
Yes,
that's correct. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, the pool creates that abstraction, and the slide just moved out of the screen. But yeah, so the idea of the resource pool is exactly that you don't have to be assigning the PCI. That creates a level of abstraction that you can just move by just having the resource group named exactly on the same two areas. You can just move it, and the configuration will stay on the VM and know that it needs to go to that resource group and able to attach a GPU from it. That's why we say you assign the VM to the resource pool, because that's exactly what the query is doing. It's just querying that resource group and assigning it from it if available. The slide deck went away, so I only see the cameras. I'm not sure if there we go. And I'll further along, the next slide will sort of walk you through the PowerShell commandlets a little bit further. So this is, I try to express the same thing that we just covered in a graphical way. So if you click through this, you have, you create the resource group. You then assign the GPU to the resource group. The VM, you want to change the default offline action, and on the left side, you're going to see all the PowerShell that occurs behind the scenes. So you definitely can do this through PowerShell. Then you assign the VM to the host group, start the VM, the resource group will eventually assign the GPU to the VM. That's the next click, and the VM is started. So that's more or less the logic that occurs when you assign it on one node. If you drain the node, then next click, you will see that the machine's moved over normally as you will do with a migration in the cluster resource. Then the machine is powered down, moved over, and then started. When it started, it queries the resource group again for that GPU, and then assigns it to the VM. That's sort of the workflow that it occurs behind the scenes.
So real quick,
yeah,
and maybe we're getting into the weeds a little later. Does it matter if do the GPUs have to be identical? Do they have to be in the same slots? I mean, when you create that resource pool, or just because it talks to the resource pool, it knows where the GPUs and stuff are, and it's really not an issue?
Yeah, it's expected that the GPUs are all the same. It's a homogeneous environment.
Okay.
Yeah, so we mentioned in previous slides that we didn't have any WAC support, but this is I wish I can forward a little bit. Jeff, can you just put play and probably just forward a little bit into the video? But this video is basically walking you through how you will do it with, it's just showing our WAC investments for GPU pools and DDA assignment. I think it's slide probably at the bottom. Sorry, we didn't rehearse this part.
Unnecessary. Okay, we're doing great.
Yeah, it's pretty flexible group here.
Let me see. I think it's there we go. Yeah, so basically you can just fast forward a little bit. What this is showing is that we have, all the importance of Windows Admin Center for HCI, all the benefits that you get with the dashboard that you get from it. Oops. So yeah, then this is a 4-minute video. So I'll try to see if we can fast forward a little bit.
You're doing good, Jeff. You were playing it good.
No pressure on Jeff here.
Yeah. So the important thing is to understand that we have 2 nodes and a couple of VMs started there. We're going to target 1 VM. You can see information about the server. And then there was a new section for the cluster called GPU where it can be configured. So let's fast forward a little bit quicker there, Jeff. Apologize to put you on the spot. If you hold the little round thing, yeah, there you go. You can go back and forth. There you go. I think that's easier. So in this section, you see GPU pools. If you looked at it in the previous one, you can see all the ones that are assignable. And when you configure the pool, you can select them, be able to name the pool, and this will create the resource groups automatically. And then eventually you can assign the GPU to a VM. That will be fast forward a little bit here. Yeah, so you see you're assigned, you can click assign VM and then select your machine. In this case, it's Peter-test. You can configure your IMMU. You can configure also your offline actions that we mentioned earlier. So everything that we showed in PowerShell can be done through the WAC portal. And then eventually here, when you refresh, you're going to see that the assigned VM will list the Peter-test machine. And then what we do next is show you a sort of a drain on a node. And the exciting part there is that you'll see the machine go down, shut down, and then move over, and then be assigned a VM on a GPU on the second node, and it started. And then you also have unassigned instructions as well.
So a lot of your GPUs you can split up into multiples. So you've got multiple GPUs on a card. Does that show up in the resource pool as multiple GPUs? In your resource pool?
I believe that is the case. Yes, that you should, if you have multiples, it should show. But Ryan, do you know exactly if some of the newer GPUs show individually? I haven't seen it myself. So I've only seen the T4, but that's the expectation. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll know soon. So the team just got their A16s.
Snap, snap, chop, chop.
So yeah, this is just walking you through the unassignment of the GPU, and
so the key here is it fails over, just like a HCI, right? That's the key here. It's you know, maybe it doesn't sound that exciting to me. It's exciting, right? Because the whole point when we sell HCI with HA, it's ability to have resiliency in the fact that now everything is resilient. You can fail over, and that's improvement. That's great.
Yep. Definitely, yeah. Before it was just as mentioned, you know, you had to know the PCI, you had to do this configuration. There was a lot of knowledge of the where things were, and you have to unassign and reassign. We took a lot of that complexity out, and hopefully in the near future, we'll be looking to more investments in this area. So as a summary, again, just GPU is a journey. We're working on bringing more into the. We're listening loud and clear. We're going to bring more to the space. And if you are working with GPUs, we'll welcome your feedback and keep using them.
Thank you, Alvin. Appreciate it. This is really good information both from Motti and Alvin, just to kind of get a good glimpse of what's coming, right? Number one, GPU is supporting Azure Stack HCI, DDA. GPUP is coming in the near future, and it is important in terms of a lot of application out there that you can split the GPU resources. There was a question from somebody regarding security. Brown said you had a lot of questions. Did you get all your question answered?
I'm helping to answer questions, Howard.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Brownson. You got more hairs than last time I saw you. On beer.
Yeah.
So I guess there's a couple things. Number one is in terms of the GPU, I think I'm gonna probably try to pick on Nathan, because I know you have a GPU today in your environment. Would this continued innovation from Microsoft, how would that help your current environment today and in the future, Nathan? Because you have a GPU today.
Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute myself. Like, it would help. Like you said, we do have the Tesla T4 is what we have in our 3-node VDI solution. Currently, they're not being used right now, so because the complexity of the DDA option. But if we could get it to where we could use like the GPUP, like that would be very beneficial.
And you're using it, you need a graphic card because why? Today in your environment?
Because like in our VDI environment, most of the users are doing image related stuff, and so not so much like processing, but like graphics display would help with the speed of it. And we are looking forward to doing some graphics processing potentially in the future. But
got it.
Hey Nathan, this is Ryan. What GPUs are you using?
The T4s.
Okay, so I think the one thing we didn't mention was that the GPUP will be Ampere forward. There's some technology in the new A series, SR IOV, if I got that acronym right, specifically is what we need in those cards. So right now we don't have plans, unfortunately, for T4 GPUP.
But on the, yeah, it's going to be SR-IOV. Another thing, I don't remember, Ryan, if you mentioned that our Ampere has a technology called MIG, I call it MIG7, that you can take and divide the GPU up to 7 instances, and you can assign an instance to a specific VM compared to virtualizing the entire GPU. So this is something that will be working, of course, with Microsoft to have it more efficient GPU support.
Yeah, MIG is on A100 for 7 instances and the A30 for 4 instances, and you can carve it up in different ratios. So all these nuances, MIG and the discrete GPUs, GPU-P, these are all things that we have to work out with the vGPU driver, host and guest, work with Alvin and team, get that into Windows Admin Console. So that's why we're seeing, don't forget security reviews, very stringent. So by the time it gets to everyone on the in customer side, we have a solid solution. So we've been working at this for a while and looking forward to getting this out soon.
Gonna pick on another one, Adam, engineering firm, DataON engineering. How would GPU support enhance engineering CAD and whatever application today you have? Is that going to be benefit to your organization? Adam's still on? Okay, I can't see. Not sure.
Yeah, it's on mute. I see Adam, but he's on.
Adam Morris, you're muted. He's kind of shy today, kind of weird. Sorry, Tim, I cut you off there.
No, that's okay. My question was on licensing. I'm assuming licensing for the NVIDIA cards and stuff, that's still going to be the same. That's probably for Ryan, I guess. Of course, he muted and unmuted. We still can't hear him. So it's
it's locked up. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so licensing going to be the same for the NVIDIA, for the GPUs and stuff?
For now, I will say yes. There's a lot to sort out still, so licensing is part of it. But I don't see any major changes. It'll mainly the challenges are on the management side of things. But yeah, so if you need those functionality features for VDI, enabling Quadro or graphics, enabling certain things in Omniverse that require it, and so on, we don't expect changes, but those are the details. We're literally having those conversations daily right now.
Perfect.
I think one of the key usage models we spoke to earlier today is the fact that when AVD become more prevalent to Azure Stack HCI, the ability to have GPU support for different kind of workload and work group that may have higher requirement for graphic intensive workload. I think that's something that all the customers here can really apply to. It's funny, as soon as I found out available, I started talking to a lot of customers. It just start become apparent today. A lot of them has VDI. A lot of them may be in Azure. A lot of them are using Citrix, right? I just never had that conversation with the customer because it was never available for me to have a conversation. But now it is. It really has driven a lot of attention, a lot of anticipation from the customer. So for sure, Alvin team, it is definitely top on my radar to make sure continue to work with you guys to drive that. But on the flip side of it, having GPU also enable a lot of application on the edge. You guys all know Benjamin Clemens, and he's one of the close partner of DataON. And I think last time in our virtual meetup, Ben shared some of the project he's working on, which is really leveraging the capability of GPU at the edge for AI inferencing. Ben, maybe in very short, if you could kind of share with the team the progress you made and what observation, good, bad, and different, that you've seen with this technology with GPU support.
Yeah, one of the things is that there are so many moving pieces. We're dealing with, of course, Azure Stack HCI and dealing with, some different products on the Microsoft team, and then we're dealing with, even doing GPUs in a, production environment now, and integrating with Azure Stack HCI with the VM that's running Azure Percept, and then also working with NVIDIA's tool sets to then interact with the GPU and do some of this video analytics. There's so many different moving pieces. We're now at the stage of scaling up and seeing how many video cameras can we watch with a T4, for instance, because that's what we have, at this point. So we are moving forward. It's just, it's a little bit of, you have to back up and then go forward and back up and go forward a little bit. But we're very, very excited. We're just as excited as we were back in the webinar. It's a lot of hard work, but we think there's some great things that, with this combination of Microsoft and NVIDIA and DataON bringing this power to the edge, that we can do things now that just a year ago we weren't able to do. So we're so excited to be working with the team and trying to bring all this together in such a way that it provides a lot of value to the customer. And we've just gotten a lot of feedback from a lot of different organizations of, yes, we need this. We need this in our environment. So I'd say that's just a brief overview of that.
Thanks, Ben.
Sure.
A lot of hard work. Thank you. I'll continue that. Couple of side notes. I know there is a big event coming up on the video GTC, Ryan. Maybe you could do a quick pitch. I'm sure there's a lot of new information coming out. When is that, and are there new stuff to be announced?
Yep, Jensen's always cooking something in the kitchen, so maybe he's back in the kitchen since we're back online, unfortunately. But maybe next time we'll be in person. But yeah, there's actually event tracks for all the industry verticals. There's multiple developer days, whether you're focused on Jetson or Omniverse or healthcare, telco. Microsoft has maybe 20 sessions at GTC, so they're a diamond sponsor. And we've got some good stuff on our joint solutions on the application sides with DeepStream, integrations with Microsoft, and some other announcements coming up as well. So yeah, be sure to register. It's a 3-day event toward the end of March here, and I have to check my email signature for the actual dates. I think it's March 21st through the 24th, somewhere in there. But yeah, if there's a certain track you're interested in, feel free to reach out, and I may have a list of recommended sessions.
Yeah, Dan, I think you came in a little bit late. I think the GPU piece of will be coming, and hopefully sooner than. So I think that's all Alvin could share. Alvin, what are some of the upcoming activity event that you see for the remainder of the year? Are you guys having more developer events that people could learn more about GPU in the future and the direction for Azure Stack HCI?
I believe that yes, that we have the Ignites and the different venues that we present. So those are upcoming. I don't have the dates right in front of me, top of my head, but stay tuned to the announcements that there are coming. They will be
this
included.
year, you guys will release 22 H2s later this year, right?
That is the plan. Yes.
Okay. Any other question from the team, guys? I think this is a great kind of a summary of where Azure Stack HCI is going. Continuing innovation around GPU and support different workloads, AI at the edge, AVD coming, and other ML workloads. I think it is something that we continue to be excited about with this product. If you have any question in the future about anything, feel free to reach out to anybody here on the call. I think everybody here joining the call actually are very, very happy to engage and to share with you their experience. But feel free to reach out to us at DataON and Microsoft and NVIDIA if any questions. I actually did pick 2 winners because I just do that all the time. The 2 winners for a $100 Amazon card is Ken, I think from Danenbaum, and Daniel Gruchen. I think that's from Silverline. I think. Is it?
Tell them write their email.
Yeah, I think I know both of them. So you get a $100 Amazon card because Kelly picked it. I think any more questions? Nathan, please.
Yes. So I do have one question. It's more for the NVIDIA guys. We have some developers that are writing some processing software and they're trying to add code, but they're testing with like the 3080s and 3090s. The consumer cards, how do they compare to like the A series, like the A2 and the A, like all those cards? It would be strictly compute is what they're looking for.
Yeah. So we don't typically benchmark the RTX series against the Ampere data center series. So, I mean, there's some back of napkin math you can do by, calculating cores and whatnot. But really, what's interesting about this, so yeah, we have tons of developers developing on RTX cards, on Jetson Nanos, but the value prop of all of our SDKs is that it translates over to the data center cards. So you develop once and you run it anywhere, maybe with a tweak of the config file to map memory and whatnot. But in short, we've tried to do these RTX conversions before, and they're just so unreliable and not clean. It's difficult to do without just procuring one of the NVIDIA cards and testing it. Now, and another challenge, if you look at a lot of the basic benchmarks, a ResNet 50. Comparing all the cards, you still need to be careful with doing that because it's not taking into account the full pipeline of an application or a workflow. So you may have a GPU that excels at ResNet 50, but if you have other parts in there that are causing delays, maybe some pre-processing is where you're hung up, or something like a USB camera is causing delays because USB is slow. That's where you really have to start focusing, is on that full end-to-end pipeline. So I think another way to maybe test this is trying T4s in the cloud on Azure. That's another method to give you an idea of how those would apply. Well, there's more GPUs than T4s in Azure now. So that's another option for you as well.
Thanks. Casey, you had a question? I can't read the question. I think your question is, when will AVD be coming to on-premises? Alvin, since you're Microsoft, you can take that question.
I think that's in the plans, that there are some movement, traction on that. I believe there's some talks around the space for the upcoming versions.
Yeah, so the official answer is AVD coming to Azure Stack HCI is announced that it will be coming to Azure Stack HCI, is in private preview right now. I
believe so, yes.
Private preview right now, and the goal is to get to GA as fast as possible because everybody wants it, and I'm wanting it, and everybody wants it. So as fast as Microsoft to get it out to public, they will. But it is announced that it will be supported on premises on Azure Stack HCI. So AVD is coming, and just how fast. So yell at Microsoft if it's not fast enough. Don't yell at me. Tim, you had a question.
Yeah. Do you or have you guys come up with a list of what GPUs are going to be supported in which of your servers?
We have. So we're actually designing. We'll be validating another server stack that will be GPU specific with airflow ducts and cooling and everything else. Most likely will support from A2, A16 up to A30 across. The goal is to have two a server that support 2 GPU simultaneously without having heat issues. So we will have that, and we'll have that list as soon as that it's available. Yes. Bronson?
Hey, I think just from my years of experience working with NVIDIA GPUs now for 4 years in the data center, I think whoever's doing the WAC, the Windows Admin Center development around it, needs to make sure that when you're looking at a virtual machine view, we're going to need a way to surface some information from NVIDIA up into that display, specifically things like the driver version, whether the Quadro features are on or not, and also the frame buffer, the encoder utilization, and just the various metrics that are available. We use this third-party product called ControlUp, which can surface that information up for us, but it'd be nice to have it all in one tool set so we don't have to bounce around to a bunch of different consoles. But yeah, like a VM not being able to see the licensing server to get his Quadro driver enabled is a big issue that usually goes undetected until a user starts crying in about a week. But stuff like that.
Good feedback, Bronson. Alvin, so if you guys could take that to the team, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
I can't see the other hand. Any other hands out there?
Taylor's got a hand up.
Hey, Taylor.
Yeah, so I had a question about right now you guys use Intel servers, and with Intel's coming out with the GPU, I mean, what do you guys plan on using for your GPU vendor? Is it going to be one of the major brands? Are you going to OEM? And then also, there's usually more dense GPU servers out there from different manufacturers. Intel doesn't really focus on GPU heavy. I mean, unless I missed a box, I mean, there could be one. If you guys are planning on bringing on, say, maybe like a Supermicro as an OEM, would you guys be open up to maybe popping on AMD sockets as an option? Because right now you guys are Intel only. Wow,
you hit a Force-sensitive topic in one sentence.
You like that?
I'll answer, but I'm going to get in trouble. So number one, today only NVIDIA has GPUs, so we're all NVIDIA. I'm sure when Intel comes out and we look at them and they're competitive, we'll evaluate it. But today is all 100% NVIDIA because I have no other option, and everything works perfectly with them. So that's number one. Number two, we don't have plan for AMD just because of resources, not because of anything else. We don't have enough resources to go qualify another set of platform to make that available. I know there's a lot of I almost lost a deal because they wanted more socket and more cores in price. So I understand the challenge with space, but at this time there's no plan. The third answer is no, we don't plan to bring another OEM in. Again, it's trying to be singularly focused on what we're good at, and Intel is kind of, we're really good at that platform and we know how to operate it. But to solve some of the density question you have, what we're doing is trying to bring out a platform that's 2U that has enough PCI slot and thermal that could have multiple GPU inside. Right now, minimum 2. If the thermal allows more, there's enough PCI slots on there, we could put more. But that platform with 2U, probably 8 bay, will support a lot of density as required. But it's not going to be a purpose built like maybe like a Supermicro. That's like more dense. So that's kind of our thinking process in our back of our head. So I think I answered all the question there. Any other questions?
Question from Ben.
Ben.
Yeah, hey, I was just wondering, I mean, we've obviously, as we put more and more servers in the DC, power consumption is constantly in growth. So I'm just curious, yeah, obviously DataON does a lot of benchmarks around performance from a storage point of view and that kind of thing. Are you guys also benchmarking as you look into GPUs, the impact on power consumption in the servers? And what the different models and stuff will do to power consumption on average?
So the question is, once GPU is available, are we going to do, have we or will we do benchmarking on Azure Stack HCI for different type of GPU versions? Is that what your question is?
Yeah, benchmarking more from a power consumption point of view as opposed to performance point of view, or I guess the trade-off of power versus performance for the different models.
Yeah, I think foremost we we need to make sure that a single platform could support the power envelope of A2, A16, A30, and A100. That's I think that's the foremost thinking process from the engineering team. I think we will achieve that. The second is once we have that envelope in place, then we'll probably do benchmark. I don't even know we don't do benchmark yet with GPU and how to measure it. So we'll probably have to work with NVIDIA team to figure what is the right Azure Stack HCI world ecosystem benchmark with GPU so we could present that. But we do have benchmark in terms of Azure Stack HCI. Trust me, we have the most in the world. We have so many benchmark in every slice of pie, but GPU, not much at all today, but we will, knowing us.
As a baseline, Howard, when you qualify the GPUs on your hardware, we are checking for clock cycles, thermals.
That's right.
We know we're not slowing down the GPUs under load, but we're not doing, the ML perf type things on that. We're stress testing and making sure that it's within power, thermals, clocks, all that are okay at load, and then just part of the process.
Thank you. I agree. Good point. Bronson.
I just wanted to follow up with what Ben just mentioned, that it is a thing for first-time GPU users and buyers that you don't realize. You just can't fill out an entire 42U rack with servers hosting GPUs. You will exceed the power requirements or the power ability of your breakers in that rack, or you'll have to design special racks with multiple breakers. So if you only have 2 power inputs on your server, that could cause problems. It'd be nice if DataON published some sort of like, this is the maximum amp draw of this server for like all their SKUs, just to make power capacity planning a little bit easier. Under max load and also under startup, these are your top amperages.
Okay.
So that we could more effectively build out racks, because I've got a lot of racks in the data center that are not 100% full just because they've got GPU hosts in them. So,
very good point. I think that topic, when we build racks for customer, that's been a requirement, and we have a tool that does that. But we should list that in our data sheet or website on thermal and power pole. I agree with you, Bronson. Any other questions, Jeff, out there?
That's all the ones I see.
Thermal too, Howard, for sure. I'll tell you right now that when you buy GPU systems from Lenovo, they make you sign an agreement saying that you'll only operate this in a data center within a specific temperature range, because they know that if you try to run it in a regular office building, you're going to have a little bit of a disaster.
Got it. Again, thanks. We'll get into the space, so we need all the input as possible. So I might just call you, Bronson, and talk to you some more. All right, thank you, guys. We're over about 10 minutes as usual. Thank you, Alvin, Microsoft. Thank you, Motti, Ryan, for joining and answering all the questions. Looking forward to more exciting news from both of you, and looking forward to working with all of you guys to get GPU into the marketplace. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.